Paperback Rocker, episode 77. Hey, this is Matt Severson, the Paperback Rocker, and I'm broadcasting from my 6x9 foot cinder block shack in the desert of northern Mexico, southern Texas. Welcome and thanks for checking out my show.
Names have been changed to protect the guilty.
Hey everybody, what's up? It's your old friend Matt, the Paperback Rocker. I'm back again with yet another installment of my book, Blue Whiskey, audiobook style, as read by me, including bad accents. I have returned from a approximately 2-week hiatus in which I went to Seattle and had a great vacation, and have since finally gotten back to normal, and I will resume my frequent episodes starting with this one. And when last we read Stanton Wheelhouse III, our hero, had just hold on a second, adjusting levels, check. Stanton Wheelhouse III had just decided that a few things, that he would begin to chronicle all the lessons he learned from there on in his life in a notebook or notebooks for the future. And also he has realized that he can wear women's blouses on stage, and that will be his stage attire, since he gave his best black shirt to Johnny Cash. So I think we're caught up. I will begin reading here on page 121 at the very top in this hardback edition of Blue Whiskey. As you may or may not remember, I'll be reading for about 15 minutes in this installment. I hope you enjoy it. Here we go. Having acquired replacement clothing, I searched for a place to play that evening. I explored the town and drove past an out-of-place concrete archway that was about 50 feet high. It looked like a smaller version of the one in front of the Louvre, which I had seen in pictures. I pulled Wanderlust over and went to get a close-up look at it. A memorial plaque told the history of the impressive structure. This was a newly constructed replacement version of the original Newport News Victory Arch. 500,000 men had embarked from Newport News in the World Wars, and this majestic memorial was meant to commemorate their sacrifice. I thought of my father's service in the Merchant Marines, and my heart swelled with pride and inspiration. I hurried back to Wanderlust to retrieve my guitar. Each time I took it out of the case, I thought warmly of Reuben. I went back to the arch and sat down with my back against it and wrote Eternal Flame, which appeared on my third album. Eternal Flame was one of those songs that was delivered to me divinely. I never say songs were channeled to me, because that sounds somewhat demonic. Cars passed, and many honked their horns. Whether they were mad at me, thinking I was being disrespectful, or encouraging me, I didn't know, but some stopped, and a crowd of young people slowly massed around me. After finishing my fourth and most perfect performance of Eternal Flame, the crowd burst into applause, and I stood up. I didn't realize there were so many of you, I said as I surveyed the group. I counted 10 people, but saw more crossing the street to join us. Play more, said a girl. Okay, I said. I wished I was wearing one of my new blouses, since I was sporting a worn-out Thirsty Possum tee pocked with cigarette burns. I played Blowin' in the Wind, and the little crowd went bonkers. I think I was the first busker Newport News had ever seen. Play more, the girl said again. Where's your hat? Said a young goateed guy with horn-rimmed spectacles. My hat? I asked. For tips, dummy, he said with a warm smile. My mind raced. I had not planned or even considered spontaneous gig creation and its financial rewards. It was something I would rely on many times in the future to get the ways and means to afford life. See that Chevy across the street? I asked him. Yes. Would you mind running over there and grabbing my guitar case out of the back? It'll hold more than a hat. Everyone laughed. It was a transient moment to them, but I cataloged it in the back of my mind. I used variations of that joke for the next 2 years. I played a few more songs, and a decent amount of money was placed in my case. What's your name? Someone said. Stanton Wilhouse III. Where are you from? Someone asked. New Orleans. I thought that answer better than Oxford, Mississippi. I've been in residence on Bourbon Street, preparing for my move to New York City. You're going to be a star, said a teenage girl. She extended a little spiral notepad to me, and I deduced she wanted my autograph. Her eyes said, You're dreamy. You're going to... I signed it and wrote, Eternal Flame, Newport News, 1963, under my name. I handed it back to her, and she read it and squealed, I love you, Stanton Wilhouse III. She grabbed me and kissed me. I've got to go babysit my little brother, but you've made me the happiest girl ever. The crowd laughed, and I was very embarrassed. How do I follow that? I said. Play another song. Play that song about the flame again. Well, I'm new to your town, I said, but this here memorial plaque told me that 500,000 military men have shipped out to war from here. The crowd, now numbering about 15, clapped respectfully. Sad thing is, more left Newport News than came back. I wrote this song today to honor those who did not return. It's called Eternal Flame. I played the song and fell into the tunnel as if I had stepped into an open manhole. I closed my eyes and felt the warmth of the sun on my face. My hands knew the way, which freed me, and I gave an emotional vocal performance. I was still relatively new at playing live, as you know, but by the end of the song, tears were dripping off my chin. The tunnel was so deep that when I opened my eyes, I was surprised to see the people around me. I had completely forgotten about them. There were over 20 now, and they were huddled close, many of them also in tears. I had tapped into something that wasn't inside me even 15 minutes before. I was growing as an artist with every second. It was all directly related to my declarations on the beach. I think I'm done, everyone. It's getting late in the afternoon, and I want to find a place to play tonight if I can. My family has a restaurant where you can play, a young man said. Do you normally have performers? No, but we're the most popular seafood joint in town, and we're always packed. Do you serve beer? Yes, sir, and my father will sell it for $1 a glass tonight if you'll come play. How much does he usually charge? $1 a glass. I guess I found my gig for tonight, I said, and everyone clapped. I hope to see you all this evening at, I looked at my new friend, the Clam Shack. How original, I said and laughed. Everyone come to the Clam Shack tonight and tell your friends. The crowd dispersed except for the young man who had promised the gig to me. He was dressed like a typical teenager of the time and had a shock of unruly, sandy blonde hair. My name's Howard, he said, extending his hand. I shook it and said, Stanton Wilhouse III, nice to meet you. You sure your father will be okay with me playing at your place? Wait till you meet him, he said. He worships Bob Dylan. Do you know any more Bob Dylan songs? A few. Good. Be prepared to play them. Will you give me a ride to the shack? He asked. That girl got so excited about you was my girlfriend. The one who went to babysit, I said. Yeah, and she was my ride, Howard said. I didn't have a car. I don't have a car. Well, that was smart of you to pick a girlfriend with one, I said. I know, he replied with a mischievous smile. I said, mind if I drop you off? I want to work on my set until it's closer to showtime. No problem, he said. Be ready for my father. He's going to talk your ear off. I think I can handle him, Howard. How old are you? 14. So you're dating an older woman. Howard smiled at me like he was getting away with the world. I laughed. We left in Wanderlust, and he directed me to the restaurant, and I dropped him off. Run in and make sure it's okay with your father, and give me a thumbs up, I said. Okay, see you later. I'll be back by 7:30. Come at 7 and I'll bring some food out to you. Then you can make your entrance at 7:30. People go to bed pretty early around here. You got it, Howard. The boy ran to the clam shack and I waited. I had the feeling of a man outside his boss's office, not knowing if he has been summoned to be fired or given a raise. Finally, Howard appeared in the front window with 2 thumbs up. Yes, I said, both to him and myself. I drove away and went back to the beach. I parked and looked out the window at the waves for a while, kind of meditating. I thought back to how bad I felt on those black beauties compared to the relaxation I felt now. I smiled and thought about all the people in my life, one after another, from my family through the son of Faulkner, Reuben, and the Bourbon Street artists, all the way up to Hankster, Waylon, and Johnny and Howard. Soon I would add more people to the ever-expanding cast of characters in my life story. I reached to the floorboard between the front seats and picked up my 6 spiral notebooks. They were all the same color, which was a mistake on my part. I opened the first one and saw that it was my book of lessons. I closed it and scrawled, "Lessons Learned" on the cover in black ballpoint pen. I didn't have to open the next one since I knew it was pristine. I wrote, "People I Know" on it. I opened the notebook and listed all the people I had been thinking about, along with a short description if necessary. Obviously, my family members were just listed by name, but after Hankster, I wrote, Hank/Chester. Worked at a gas station in Nashville, wanted to be a country star. Okie. Went to a honky-tonk to play pool, and we met Waylon and Johnny. When I finished this list, which I have continued and added to ever since, I retrieved my acoustic and sat on the hood of my Chevy with my feet on the bumper and worked on my set list, writing down and crossing out titles in another notebook. I didn't know what time it was when I finished, but the sun setting behind me told me it was close to 7. Regarding timekeeping, I've never been one to wear a watch. I keep a running estimation based upon the last instance I knew the correct time, along with external stimuli like the sun and the temperature. I'm usually about 15 minutes late to most gigs, but I think that is acceptable and enhances the crowd's anticipation. I never took it as far as that idiot from Guns N' Roses. I hopped in Wanderlust and drove back to the clam shack and parked across the street. Seconds later, Howard rushed up and pushed a plastic basket lined with waxed paper and filled with steaming fried seafood through my open window. "I thought you stood me up," he said. "Nonsense. What time is it?" 7:30. Look at the crowd." There was a line a quarter of a block long trailing from the front door. Word had gotten around. "Are they going to fit inside?" I said. "We'll get them in." He gave me a precocious smile. "Eat up. I'm going to take you around back to come in through the kitchen. Hurry." I wolfed the meal down and burned the roof of my mouth in the process. When I finished, I handed the basket back to Howard, grabbed my guitar case from the passenger seat, and we scuttled to the back entrance of the restaurant, unnoticed. Once in the kitchen, Howard said, "There's a microphone running through a small combo amp for your vocals, but you'll have to pound the guitar. There's no microphone or amp for it." This kid seemed to know a lot about putting on a gig. I looked at him with some sort of expression conveying that, and he said, "My father set it up. He told me what to tell you." "Tell your father he's a good man," I said. Mentally, I was cursing Howard's dad for not providing an adequate PA. Eventually, I learned that every gig has obstacles to overcome, and successfully coping with them makes the difference between professionals and amateurs. Howard said, Tell Dad yourself after the show. He'll like that. I'm going to introduce you now." The boy rushed away. It was amazing that these people I didn't know were being so supportive. I didn't catch it at the time, but I was getting famous. Hearing the introduction, which called me simply Stanton Wheelhouse, I backed through the kitchen's double doors and turned around to see about 50 people. Their hands were clapping and their mouths were chewing clams. I approached the microphone and said, "I'm Stanton Wilhouse III. I hope you're enjoying your food tonight. I cooked it." I had put an apron on over my guitar on the way out of the kitchen and now threw it off. The people laughed and I felt I had won them over already. I played for an hour, all my songs. When I was done, I said, "Thank you, Newport News." I received a standing ovation, but before I could fully enjoy it, Howard rushed to the microphone and said, "For an encore, Stanton's going to play some Bob Dylan." He turned to me and whispered in my ear, "I promised my father, remember?" I stepped to the microphone and said in my best Bob Dylan voice, "I'm Bob Dylan. I want to thank Stanton Wilhouse III for warming you guys up. You are warm." I'm not going to do the outrageous Bob Dylan accent. "You are warm, aren't you?" I had never heard Bob speak at that point, but I wasn't far off. The people laughed and cheered. "Did that Wheelhouse character mention his hometown?" I said in my imitation voice. A teenage voice said, "No, he didn't, Mr. Dylan." The crowd laughed. "I didn't think so," I said. "Now move along, son, you bother me." Everyone laughed again, and I said, "Just kidding, kid," and winked at him. "Stanton's from Mississippi, town of Oxford, I said. And it just so happens I wrote a little song about what happened in that town in 1962. There was this man, James Meredith. He served in the Air Force and was the first black boy to enroll at the University of Mississippi. A lot of people, including the governor, tried to keep James Meredith from going to school there. That ain't right, is it?" "No," the crowd said in unison. The volume shocked me. I launched into Oxford town and did an accurate impression of the singing of Bob Dylan. When I finished, I received robust approval. Unbeknownst to me, Howard was making his way around the cafe with an empty pickle jar, collecting tips. Okay, I'm going to end right there. Hope you enjoyed that installment of Blue Whiskey. It's available on Amazon for Kindle as well as paperback and hardback, which you could also get from me by contacting me at paperbackrocker@live.com. Drop me a line. Let me know how many books you want to order, and I'll get them shipped out to you pronto. Hope you're enjoying the book. I guess I'll see you midweek with yet another installment of Blue Whiskey starring Stanton Wilhouse III, my character. I hope you have a good week. I'll talk to you soon. Have a good one.
The Paperback Rocker has signed off.